Good afternoon. Mic check one. You can hear Jesus with these new headphones. I just heard
you got some one-liners.
I hear y'all out there talking.
Get me a Burrow run. One-liners you got.
Oh my goodness.
Those some bad mic headphones there.
You like, man. What's that you saying over there? It's Bug in the corner talking. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to welcome to MTV.
You get that, Lord help him. He heard you. Now he can't think straight.
Oh my God.
I believe.
Right. Welcome to EMIYTV. Put your first podcast. I'm the host, Calvin. Man, we have the co-host in the building, Dr. Heather Rue. How you doing?
I am good.
Okay, and Brother Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
So Brother needed that laugh. So, just today in the news, right? We just heard some incredible stuff. So, that's why I'm really laughing. But I just want to kick this off with we're going to talk about romance today and all of the action items that go with it. As we tap back into these relationships discussions, you can call in at 810-560-0658. And Heather, you might want to take this because I can't stop laughing, right? Like, because you can hear everything.
I know.
Our topic today: the importance, intention, and actions of romance. And I thought this was a really important conversation to have. We're talking about solutions. How do we bring our culture together? How do we build and maintain relationships so that our families are united in marriage and that covenant of marriage, and our families are protected under that covenant of marriage? So that is really at the heart of this conversation. And also we're looking at how do we move from problems to solutions and actionable practices that we can begin to implement and apply on a daily basis, not just on occasion. Because as you'll hear, romance is different for different people. But when you're coming together as a couple, as a unit, you need to be able to understand what it means for each of you. And so I want to kind of frame our conversation today, and just by defining a couple of ways that I found definitions that we can build our conversations around some of the ways that I found it defined. And I thought these were pretty straightforward and engaging definitions and descriptions. So the first one speaks to romance being defined as the feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love between the two people. Another one I found said two people and their feelings and expressions of passion, intimacy, and affection for one another. And then the third one is the expression of gestures from one person to another that makes them feel like they're connected. And so just kind of building from those, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other ways that we're going to look at it and frame it, but just to get a sense of what that looks like, what that feels like. So when you think about romance, what comes to mind? So, some of this is kind of rooted in our backstory. kind of rooted in what we've seen outside of TV, what we've seen outside of videos, what we've seen outside of TikTok and those spaces. So also what is connected to your memory and some of the ways that you have expressed it and had it expressed back to you. What is romance? And so I'm going to pose this question. I'm going to look to my left, to the men in the room, and just kind of asking you if you could frame it with an event or something that you felt was romantic, that you were on the receiving end of the romance, and then maybe where you were on the giving end of romance. Any thoughts?
Let me see.
So let's start with it being on the receiving end. Can you think of something that was that you felt was romantic that was expressed towards you? A gesture, an event, whatever that might be.
That mic is heavy. I really hear my Barry White now. Just well, I can think about when I was in, just say when I was in Vegas, someone had prepped the trip. They paid for the trip. And pretty much I was just on the receiving end. And we walked the main strip, and then we went through Fremont Street, and there were just certain scenes that I thought was good. Like I think we were in Caesar, and the atmosphere in Caesar is really a romantic spot. And then they had, and I believe there's another one, I think Bellagio, and it's another kind of romantic place, give you that kind of Italy environment and what have you. And just the walking and talking and the laughter and, time spent together created the romance, if you will. It began the process of the intimacy that we shared together, and then sitting down sometime at just a little small table, having a glass of wine. And some of it sets up that Hollywood version, and that's your foundation as a kid, because I grew up in the 60s, so you had those kind of shows and movies. So it gave that kind of look. You couldn't be in Italy, you couldn't be in some of those environments, but at least in that moment in Vegas, it was experience. And so when the part of getting back to the more physical intimacy, it was already prepped, if you will. There was no bickering, no arguing. It was just two people enjoying each other. So that's kind of it.
So when you are sharing this romantic moment, or a series of moments, because you said it was more, it was set. The tone was set from the very beginning.
Yes.
So when you think of romance, what are some of those ideas that you're pulling out? So I heard holding hands, I heard sitting together, I heard talking together, the ambiance, I heard that around the spaces that you were in, and how that kind of was also a part of drawing the scene, or creating the scene. What other things were set for you that you would say, this is what's romantic to me?
The expression of me being valued. The line of communication always seemed to be, they were into me, as a movie cut. He just ain't into you, like something like that. I knew this individual was into me. They made me experience, as Aretha Franklin said, giving me something I could feel. They made me feel I had value. So whatever emotional connection I needed to make me want to express my emotions back to her was heightened. If we didn't see something eye to eye, we just tabled it. Not because we were the perfect communicating people, but in that moment, we can say without saying we were intentional, not trying to bring about any negativity in this moment. And it went on for those 4 days. It was nonstop. So
nice. There
was a bond, there was understanding, there was excitement, there was laughter. In that moment, we created our own movie.
Okay, nice. Calvin.
Welcome to Vegas.
So if you can think about a romantic scene from your life, so where you would say, now this was romantic to me, and I'm on the receiving end of that romance.
You know, I don't know. I'm trying to pinpoint. I think for me, it was at one of my roughest points in being taken to see the water. And at the same time, looking at a lighthouse and walking a bridge out to the very end and feeling the water, the mist of the water, at a time that a lot was going on. I think we underestimate when it comes to emotional romance. I think we all can have those moments, right? Take a trip, put yourself in position. It's just two people. You didn't have kids. It was just you and her, right? And that, when you isolate yourself like that, you have a tendency to grow, to feel a sense of care and everything. For me, that was a day for me that I was barely smiling, right? And as that unwinded that day, you know, it was funny because I was in a place where I watched these people had beach houses, like literally right by this bridge. And they were out. And some people like literally owned those places. And right now, with it being so cold, they still got that ambient. Mm-hmm. And so that was important. That was one of the important times that it took a second, but I was able to feel value. Mm-hmm. There was another time, like in that process of being in a location, I think I was in Cancun and on the deck. Then for me, there was another time was in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Right? But those moments of where you feel, like you said, Dave, where you feel value, romance for men is hard for us to take down because we're always in this mode. You know, we might be protecting our emotions. We might be protecting people. It's hard for us. Like, you know, I know she laugh about this all the time, but one time we went to a cabin and I was away from my kids, and at the time that I was going through a lot. And so I had, you know, this is another reason why I messed with Verizon, because the phone rang and it wasn't supposed to ring, and it was my son. That added to my anxiety. Mm-hmm. Of being away from my kids at what was a tough time. Mm-hmm. But, you know, romance, it really takes effort.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It really takes effort, and it takes effort for men to accept it, because we think, Monique, you understand, we think, you know, people think us having sex is just romantic for us, just like we talked about men require foreplay too. Mm-hmm. But when we recognize that we're valued, all right, and I think that's where, you know, today I was talking to somebody and I was like, it was funny how he was feeling a certain way. It's just me and him having this meeting, and he was just like, man, it's just like he was feeling a certain way about being a man. Mm-hmm. And how it was making him feel. And now this is a man, and he's single, mm-hmm. right? And he almost 70, mm-hmm. right? But in his mind, right, he was saying how he don't think he'll ever see where black men will be valued. And that turned into a whole nother conversation. So this romance piece, it's hard for us to take romance, but for romance, those are the couple times that I can say, you know, there were some other times as well, but those are the couple times that I could say that, you know, I was able to put everything down for a second, for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you would see romance as one, being able to lay the rest of the world, the rest of the burdens to the side and just be in the moment. Am I hearing that?
Yeah, we're dying. I mean, we very seldom get to do that. I mean, we can ask Dave, how hard is it for you to just stop and put down all the things? Right. So when it's time for us to put down, I mean, like yesterday, the game is on, right? And last week I was good, right? This week, all week, nothing. The game on, I cut the game on, but at the same time, I'm evaluating grants. I went through 11 grants yesterday, right? I'm evaluating grants. The whole nine. I'm reading something. I'm getting information from proposals. Like, so in that process, it might seem like you're not doing nothing because the game is on, the phone is right there, the computer's right there, and you working off.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm barely got my head up watching the game, but shut it down. That's the hard part for us. This is why we don't sleep. Those are the things that, you know, so romance, being able to lay our head down and take everything off, because, you know, my wife, she's pretty good at allowing that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But being able to really just lay it down, that's tough, because it's always something.
So then that would seem like those moments, those romantic moments, would have even more meaning.
Oh, yeah.
When you're able to kind of separate all the other things that are on your mind.
The pastor told you yesterday at church.
Well, back to Jesus.
The pastor told you yesterday, right at church. Mm-hmm. What'd she tell you?
She told me to rest.
No, before. Yeah.
No, she told me to keep praying for you.
What did she tell you?
Oh, she also said take you somewhere, take you on a great escape.
I told you that, boy, these earphones can hear everything. I just heard her say amen.
All right, so how about Monique? Do you have something you want to chime in about a romantic experience where you were on the receiving end? Right.
It's a quite
So think in terms of time. So think in the last year.
Year?
Is that a better way to narrow it down?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh, okay, still I'm trying to remember though. I think. I know one, and actually we had talked about this yesterday. We had a florist on on the show, and I was at home during COVID, and you know, I hadn't been out the house because my job completely shut down, and I hadn't been out the house, but Richard had to still work because he was in an essential job. He, you know, works for FedEx, and so, you know, me and Monet were just like stuck in the house, and he, you know, nobody had been over or anything, and then, you know, it was you know, the doorbell rang, and I got flowers.
Oh.
And, you know, it made me feel good because I had been stuck up in the house, you know, you're going crazy.
Right.
And, you know, he was out, and I would be worried about him, too, because he was out, you know,
right.
When COVID was going on. So, yeah, that was one of the, not that I could think of one.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's awesome. I will share, for me, one of my romantic moments Well, I mean, I have had so many, but one of the most important moments for me was when I got a love letter. And there is, for me, it was nothing more special than the words that were shared, and to have those sentiments put in writing and gifted to you in a way that were words that you always wanted to hear from the person who says that they love you, and that have proven those words to you. And I guess it comes back to the value too, and that was one of the things that was of real value to me, getting that letter. And it wasn't a short letter. It was a pretty involved letter with a mixture of compliments, a mixture of vulnerability, a mixture of my why. And I'm a big why person. I always want to know why. And because those whys were answered for me in that letter. And it was just priceless to me. And that's one of the most romantic gestures or expressions that I have had in my lifetime. So that one was really important to me. And so when we were talking about being on the receiving end. Now, how about on the giving end of that conversation? Any thoughts? What moment have you expressed in giving and creating a romantic moment that you feel like is this is something that you did that was really at the top of your game? And I don't mean game, I mean, but at the top of your ability, at the top of your capacity. Let me rescind that game term.
Well, just about anybody I would date, or if I was married, I live for romance. I live to create the atmosphere. My nature is giving, so that's easy for me. So I have taken individuals out of town, and as I mentioned the previous one who did that for me, I create that atmosphere, and whether it's received or not, because I've also ran in situations where, some people didn't want the rose petal. They didn't want the, the bath water, bubble bath setup. They didn't want it. I'm not into that, or come with a backstory, oh, what you trying, I ain't like that, so, but in my brain, I'm always, as you were talking about the love letters, well, see, I come from that era where people wrote letters back in the day in the Army. That was what you look forward to, was to receive a letter. So I've always tried to create that atmosphere, because I was raised that whoever you with, you should give them 100% of yourself, the best you can. So if I'm still opening the doors, I'm still the person that's going to take you to, as Calvin would say, take you to the water. I took one gal up in Flint. They say the water's bad, but I took a place in Flint. And to a little lake. And just so happened this lake had these lighting, like back in the strobe lights and things like that. Well, just about when it got halfway dark, we went to dinner, had a good time. Then we went to this lake, and I took her to this bridge, and the atmosphere was so cool, but the lights came on, blew her away, because it just kept giving these different colors. And then I would take the pictures so she could remember these different colors to set it up. So, everything just flows. So I'm always thinking of that. If I'm with somebody, they can almost count, they're going to get flowers every week. And that's just my thing, unless they tell me otherwise, And I've learned I ain't going to sit up here and perpetrate. I'm not going to FTD and spending $300 for no flowers, But I'm going to find a place where it's reasonable, because I'm giving it to you every week. And I'm going to try to create that environment that lets you know your value. To me, when I'm setting up that whole thing, is to let you know your value. I'm not going to be in your space and not let you know your value. So, and for the most part, I haven't had too much pushback. But every now and then you meet a unique one, I tell you.
Yes, for sure. Or sometimes your ideas don't meet.
Right.
They just don't meet. Yeah.
And usually I'm not just doing this haphazardly. I'm
Right.
usually spending time to learn you.
Right.
I watch
for
what
sure.
you do. When we go in the store, I watch what you pick. You know, if you buy a certain type of clothes, I watch how you select your clothes. I watch what you eat. You know, if you're an Italian person and I notice, well, where you want to go? Oh, I want to go to an Italian restaurant. Well, hey, I'm going to find every Italian restaurant I can get a hold to.
Right.
And I'm going to make sure that atmosphere is set up, you know, because I want you to have that experience, you know, so.
Yeah.
Calvin, how about you? Or have you been on the giving end?
He gave you a ring. You know you bad.
Say that shit, Dave.
Why you playing?
Say that shit. You got the ring on.
Well, that's a whole nother story about how that came about. Right.
But for me, it was Novi. It was winter. And it was a picnic in the living room with boneless chicken thighs and some food and some, you know, spinach made, cooked, no lights. It was and it was cold. And you know, it's the conversation for me. What do you call that? Intellectual, sexual, whatever they want to call it. Sexosexual or sapiosexual. It's the conversation for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always the conversation for me. And so in doing that, you know, same thing. I kind of like the surprise, right? And in some other areas, you know, it'll be the different rib spots, because you know somebody like a lot of ribs, right? So you gotta find the rib spots, you know, and different locations. So we've been throughout Michigan visiting the top 10 rib spots, right? These are things that I know is romantic for them. You know, it's the little things, and when it comes to application, you know, for me, I have a way big vision for that. So, like, you know how some people, when you're not where you really want to be, you kind of hinder where you see that vision, right? So, you know, I see one of the things is Jamaica. You know, it's like you say, Italy. Like I'm looking at this cruise that's gonna cost thousands, but it's a cruise that's through Spain, Italy, right? It's a European cruise, and it's on a different boat, where the boat you actually have a certain amount of space just for you. Your room, and it's a cruise, but your room is literally a certain amount of space where it's visible, right? And that's going to cost thousands, right? So it's things like that where I've already got the brochures, things like that I want to do, because I think it's important that when you are being romantic, you don't be a traditional romantic. So you don't do something that everybody else does, right? It has to be something unique or different. So how you apply your romance is different. And for me, that's really how I see it. You know, like you said, Dave, you know, some people, boy, you know, you run the bath water, you lay, you know, you get to the point where you run the bath water, lay out the, you know, the nightie and all of that. And that's hard when somebody say no. And you have straight up romantic intentions, which is crazy, right? But then you kind of figure out that the person just not there. You know, and some people just not there, or they've had situations in their life where somebody abused that.
That's right.
And it just it triggered the backstory.
As Dr. Heather said, the backstory comes into play at the moment.
Yeah, it triggered the backstory. But that's, for me, romance it's words. It's big words. It's you know, it could be at any given time, because I'm not the real. I'm verbal, but when I feel it, I share it, so to speak. You know, and sometime, you know, I might hijack it and put it somewhere else, or I might, I've done videos and said, "This is what I thought." Right. So, romance is something that you most definitely, you can always get better, and I don't mind. Now, I'm sitting here thinking about it. February is coming up, Dave. Valentine's Day is around the corner. And we don't even mess with Valentine's Day because we always are, we spend a lot of quality time, right? Of, talking. And we're together a lot, So, I don't know. It's just figuring out. And then it's lunch,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's lunch. What you want for lunch, baby? Well, I thought, I got you. So it's things like that, those little things mount into a foundation of brick that you can always tap into.
Yeah, it's that creativity pulling from your imagination to, as you say, not to be a status quo, but to constantly bring about the newness, even down to just the words you use. If you go into Songs of Solomon, that there was pure romance because he started to use terms that would take this woman's imagination to another level.
Steamy.
Yeah. So that whole piece of creating the romantic atmosphere,
right?
And as you said, this was essential. You said earlier, Dr. Calvin, was giving the man that mental foreplay as well. See, if two people are on the same page when it comes down to mental foreplay, then emotions are heightened. And if emotions are heightened, the body will respond. And so when that moment of togetherness comes about, everybody already on the same page, but it has to be understood that emotions are not gender driven. They're just displayed different. So how do we get them to come together so the emotions are one? Yeah.
Right. Monique, how about you? Can you think of a expression that you've given that you've been at the giving end of?
Probably writing a letter. I haven't done that in a long time. But I wrote a letter, and and he really appreciated that. Just outside of just saying it,
right.
Write a letter. I haven't done that in a long time. And the cards too. I haven't done that in a long time.
Right.
But I used to do cards a lot. I got that from my best friend. She would send cards a lot and everything, and I got in the habit of doing that. But
yes.
But I haven't done that in a long time. I can get back to that.
Right. Now, while that is one of my expressions, it's not necessarily the person that I'm giving it to. That's not their expression. It's like, oh, that's so nice. Like you want to have that emotional reaction that you have when you find the perfect card, right? Let's see. So one that stands out at the top of my mind is I took my sweetheart for a hot air balloon ride.
Right.
It was something that was on his wish list, and it was something that he had not experienced before. And so, it was a whole weekend made out of that. But I can say that along with that, I introduced them to Spicer's. Spicer's Orchard, which now is a permanent part of his imagination, and if he's anywhere near 23, he's going to stop. But that because with the hot air balloon ride, it's something that you participate in. You participate in, the once the hot air balloon is expanding, it's a whole education process before it.
Yep.
It's, you get to know the people. And, it wasn't the single one. It was some people with us. Yeah. So, but people getting to know each other. And I know, because he's such a social butterfly, that the more people he is able to engage and share and participate, that's really his. I prefer isolating him and having him all to myself, but he likes to be in a more social space. And so, but I think that was one of the more calculated romantic gestures that I offered was just to see the world from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And to share, and it's such a peaceful.
It
I
is.
don't know why I was expecting it to be. I was expecting to be like bells and whistles and bombs going off. Like I was expecting all this excitement, and it was total peace.
Yeah.
It was total peace.
is.
It was quiet. It was smooth. It was, and because we did the sunrise ride, it was even more. It was like you connected to heaven.
Yes.
And it was such a magical moment to watch the sun, rise over the horizon, to see how beautiful and how quiet the land is. When you're looking from an aerial point of view, when you look at the streets and the cars and the houses and the fields, you see the patterns that are laid out by it. And it totally changes your perspective. And I think once you have that perspective, you can't be the same.
No.
You can never be the same from that perspective.
That's a good one. That was a good one to pull out. That was for my birthday.
Yeah.
That was interesting that you pulled that one out. That was dirty.
That was a good one. And see, because I had the same thing happen, I knew exactly what you're talking about. And that's why skydiving is so sweet. It appears to be a terrible thing, but because again, you don't know the last part of it. But yeah, that tranquil feeling, as when I was a young fella, I said I want to do everything in the air, I want to do everything in the sea, and I want to do everything on land. So I made sure that I would skydive. The hot air balloon was the same thing. The young lady set that up for me in Colorado. And so I had both experiences. But then scuba diving gives you that tranquil feeling too. So that's something you guys, I don't know if you swim or not. That's something. But
That's going to take some training for sure, because I have a, between heights and water. Like I was watching, there's this place in China that has this long thing that you got to walk up to get to the top of the mountain. And it's a wired bridge. Right? And everybody got and so, when you saw it, like you thinking, okay, about time I get to this point, I'm going to be out my mind. Right? So what's going to get me to that point? Now, I did see the zip lining, right? They got the world's longest zip lining that you jump on and you see everything, and it's like stupid heights, but the zip lining is like you mile to 2 miles or 3 miles to get to the other side, and it's just going. Now, I believe I can do the zip lining because I did the whitewater rafting. Right?
That's awesome too.
Whitewater rafting is fun.
Yeah.
Whitewater rafting, I have to admit, whitewater rafting was an experience that we ended up going a few years in a row.
Was it romantic?
It most definitely could be. It most definitely could, because you out there in the tents. You out there in the tents, right? You get the right tent. I happen to have a 1972 Chawawaki tent that was taller than everybody's tent in the area, and it took us hours to put it together, right? And so everybody was laughing because when you pull into because we were in West Virginia, when you pull in, you see this big tall TP tent. Well, that was my tent. And everybody else had the round bubble tent that was down here. So the TP is stuck up here, right? But everybody was over there.
T-Man.
Yeah. everybody was over at our spot because we was having so much fun. But it could have most definitely been. The crazy part about whitewater rafting is, they tell you don't drink when you go whitewater rafting. Well, we violated all that because we don't have no clue the first time.
Right.
We don't have no clue that when you go whitewater rafting, there's a difference between right amateur and professional, right? So here you choose which way. So me and my man Lee and everybody, we going here. Like, yeah, let's go, let's find out. Well, God,
We
we found out, right? And so a 5-point drop, right? You're doing a 5-point drop, and it don't seem like it's a lot. But then when you dropping and you look back and you can look up and say, wow, this is where we came from. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that you found was at a certain point, this the bridge in West Virginia, you could put 3 Statue of Liberties under this bridge. It's one of the biggest bridges that people bungee jump off of, right? At a certain point, you get out the raft and you get in that warm water, and it just take you down. It just take you straight down, and the water is warm. So that experience was an amazing experience, and so that's something you do. But to get into scuba diving, yeah, I'm most definitely gonna have to be trained because I got to get the confidence.
Well, naturally, you have to be trained.
To go down to school. Yeah, I'm gonna most definitely have to be trained to get comfortable.
Yeah, get the confidence.
Get the confidence because people would put that thing on and jump down there, and and plus me, I'll be watching cave explorations.
That's another experience that's awesome too. But all that, I have a friend in Florida, and it might be something to consider. They basically, that's their MO all day long, and how him and his wife got together was based on that. And it's an experience, you get your lines, make sure they stay connected to your lighting and everything. But again, just a different world. And I remember saying to myself, if they can have all these different type of creatures down here, then why couldn't it be creatures in space? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that made me think a little different, but it's also an experience. Y'all would like it. But I just want to inject this. Yes, it's romantic because you're doing that event, but it's exhilarating.
Yeah, right. The excitement.
Yeah, the excitement part.
And you're sharing it. Mm-hmm. And you're looking silly. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at each other like, right? Because it's funny. I'll tell this story. So one of the young lady, she don't weigh. Her name is Gemma. She don't weigh.
Give us somebody's name.
Yeah, this is a friend of mine. She don't weigh. She don't weigh 110 pounds, right? So she on the edge. She in the raft, and that raft go poof, poof, and she hit the water. And when she hit that water, I'm talking about it was as if she bounced off that water. She was back in that raft. Her eyes was this big. Everybody on the raft, we just fell out laughing. What you see, when we got to the standpoint, she was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah. But we had all the things that you need, the bells and whistles. But that's just another thing to really explore, right? So that's what life really has to be about. Life being stagnant and in a position where you don't do anything is just not fun.
Right. And so that's one of the reasons why we're having this conversation. And we're going to throw out some ideas too. I want to make sure that people have some ways to absorb some of the experiences that we may have had that are ways that, as couples getting to know each other, or couples that have been together for a while, and you need that extra infusion of excitement, the extra infusion of feeling valued because you have gone along so long doing the same things over and over again, and it feels a little redundant. It feels a little mundane. You need some excitement. And so I suggest infusing romance as a way to do it, and alternate doing it as the giver and as the receiver. Because part of one of the opportunities that we have is to use our creativity and to use our imagination. We are divine by design. And because of that, it gives us opportunity and tools to keep building and rebuilding. And the more you know somebody, the more opportunity you have to bring the things to them that brings them joy. And part of your joy comes out of bringing joy to someone that you love, and vice versa. So that means you have to help people understand what brings you joy. And then as you build that person up, they want to bring joy to you. They want to bring you that joy. And so I think it's a space that it's lots of room for exploration. It's lots of room for creativity. It's lots of room for, bringing in new ideas. And so I want to just go a little bit further and talk about why romance is important, One, it increases the connection of intimacy and feeling of being loved and accepted. When you recognize what acts would make another person feel loved and doing them, it also builds that bond of trust. It helps to repair the broken trust that may have existed in past relationships too. So I was going to ask a question, and I'm sure everybody has at least one, but what is your favorite romantic movie? Favorite romantic movie?
That's funny. I don't know if I got one.
For me,
I'm trying to think one. Like Mahogany, or what's the one with
That's Billy D and Diana.
Billy D? And like when you think of romance, romantic movie, that's funny. Like I don't know if I think that would be the one, right? Or even Boomerang. Boomerang kind of falls in there for me because the Boomerang soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
So Boomerang, I would say Boomerang. Boomerang was the one.
Okay, and so what was it about Boomerang that was romantic to you outside of the soundtrack? Because of course that was hot.
The comeback. The comeback.
What do you mean by the comeback?
Just when you thought I lost you, I came and got you.
Yeah, so you
showed
talk
up and
about
won.
Eddie Murphy's maturing at the end and being able to move from physical love to
Yeah, of course you would throw the word maturing in there, but
yeah, that was what it was.
there was some understanding that needed to take place for him to get there. But the real part about Boomerang was Eddie Murphy had 2 live parents, right? And so yeah, whoop that thing.
No, that wasn't Eddie Murphy's
that was
parents.
David Greer.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so but he did have in Boomerang. He did have both his parents. He did have both his parents in Boomerang because he was introducing right because he was dealing with what Grace Jones.
Well, I don't know where you going with the romantic part with Grace
movie?
Jones.
Wasn't David Allen Greer in that movie as well?
Yeah,
David Allen
was
Greer
his
was
because
parents,
he was
John
right.
Witherspoon.
That was
and
their
Major
John
parents.
Witherspoon. That was his parents. That's right.
Right, that's right.
Right, and so, but the other part is was he was selfish.
Yeah, he was.
No, he was selfish, and David Allen Greer
He was predatory.
David Allen Greer was simping, but Eddie Murphy didn't know. You know,
He was predatory.
he didn't really know what he wanted. A lot of men don't. He didn't really know he was wanted. Plus, he was wanted by so many people, right? For him to even come to the understanding that this person plays a significant part in his life, he had a lot of traffic. When you reduce traffic, that goes back to pulling your feet out them 5 doors. Eddie Murphy reduced that traffic where he could see. He had too much traffic.
Well, I mean,
And a lot of us, I just talked about this the other day, Todd. You know, us athletes, and what's the name? We have a lot of traffic. You know what I mean? It ain't nothing. It was the ugly guys that were struggling. You know, us handsome guys, we weren't struggling. Until they started the dope game where they was buying everything. Right? That's what made love transactional. So that's why women get up, dress up, put on all these things. It's transactional. And that's what I was saying the other day. But Eddie Murphy, that was it. The Boomerang. Him waking up to going to get this woman that he really realized was very valuable to him.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't know until they pick up the phone and call you late at night and say, "Hey, I had a dream you had a daughter."
whatever. How about you, Dave?
I got 2. One was the romance and learning. The other was a love story. So the first one would be Love Jones.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. Yeah, right.
Because
Love Jones is good.
there was a young man who was intelligent, who was about something, a young lady who was intelligent about something, and they come together and they built that romance. You saw a lot of
Friendship and all.
friendship, thoughtful, poems, and it just was deep. And so that movie is one of my favorites. And the soundtrack, off the scale. Off the scale.
Yep.
And then
And it still ain't better than Boomerangs, though.
well, they're both good.
Yeah.
Anytime you look, I made an omelet. Which,
Right.
playing.
Right. Yeah, it was some good moments in that movie. It was some good moments.
Yeah. Say, baby. No, I'm just gonna be. I love that poem. But anyway,
Yeah.
and hers too. I'm experiencing The Color of Love, deep. And then the other one is Notebook. That was a very lesson book for me, because it takes you from the youth to the age, and what happens on the journey.
Yes.
And then at the end of the journey, they were so deep in love that when she transitioned, he transitioned. That's just deep.
Yeah.
And that's the way To Death Do You Part. So they're my two favorites.
Right. Okay, Monique. I know Monique is the movie queen, so come on. Give it up.
I was gonna say Love Jones and then Love and Basketball.
Love and Basketball. Okay.
Love and Basketball, another good
I
one.
fell in love with that girl, man.
Yeah.
Right. So pull it out.
You still in love with Sanaa.
Yeah, man. Oh, I
Right.
love that.
You see Sanaa, Latham 9, boy. You still in love with Sanaa.
Yeah.
So what was it about those movies? Love and Basketball in particular that was romantic for you?
The journey, you know, them. I mean, from kids on, you know, up, and just what they, you know, kind of went through, you know, and they all, you know, ended up back together.
Right.
They just, you know, knowing how, you know, like, you know, he got upset because a couple times he didn't feel like she was there for him, you know, in those parts, like, you know, when he was dealing with his parents, you know, breaking up and everything. But, you know, yeah, just their journey and coming back together and everything. So.
And would you say their friendship was an important part of that?
Most definitely, the foundation.
Right.
That's what I was referring to when I was saying they were friends. That was Love and Basketball. It was really a significant piece to them and her always wanting, right? Because people don't think that really makes a relationship, but friendships make the best relationships, in my opinion.
So one of my favorites is A Warm December. It's one of Sidney Poitier's movies. What I like about that movie, not a word, Calvin. He's always talking about me and my old movie. One of the reasons I love that movie is the way that they came to know each other and the mystery that kind of surrounded who she was. She was an ambassador's daughter. An African ambassador's daughter, and very intelligent, very valuable to the work that was being done between the two of them. And he was a doctor. He had a daughter. He was I would say a single father. What did the sister say yesterday? She called it an independent mother. She said because there were other people that contributed to the growth and development of her children. So I'm gonna say he was an independent father. He was also, surprisingly, he raced motorcycles, and just kind of how their lives intertwined over the time that they got to know each other. That was one, the differences and the challenges, and with her having a medical challenge and him being a doctor, it was what he was destined to do and what she desperately needed, and to be able to be loved in spite of your circumstance, in spite of what you're going through, and to have somebody to be there to go through that with you, and to, just be committed to live each day. And that's what she asked him to do with her, is to live and love me today. And so that was one of the things that made that movie particularly romantic, is that they were able to just live in the day. They weren't projecting in the future. They weren't, discriminating about the past, but they lived in the moment together. And that's really what made it that especially romantic to me. Plus, they have it was a sweeping musical soundtrack. It had a variety of cultural music. I like that too. The other one that is a oldie, I'm not sure if most people even know this movie, is called Now Voyager. It's a Betty Davis movie. And
damn.
Betty Davis.
Betty Davis.
Yeah, it was just a movie around self-exploration and about it not being too late to change who you are and who you want to see yourself to be, and then love from those terms, because the person that she fell in love with, who fell in love with her, they had a moment, but he was married, and he was in a unhappy marriage, but committed nonetheless. But they still loved each other, but not in an intimate way, not in a a way that was physical. It was in a way that was appreciation for who he was, how he loved his family, for who she was and who she was becoming. And so they kind of complemented each other and helped to fill in gaps where there were, spaces missing. But it was about the journey. That's why it's called The Nile Voyager.
Back
it was
then,
about the journey.
You talking about Betty Davis? That movie? They didn't have sex. They would just look at each other.
Oh no! In this movie, it wasn't that she wasn't having sex. It was just at a point in her life where it shows how she was growing up. She had a really strict mother and was very manipulative.
Oh yeah, what's up, Miss Jane, the lady in the wheelchair?
No.
The other one when she.
No, this is Nile Voyager. You have to see it. So if you haven't seen it,
it's young baby Betty Davis.
Right.
Well, no, she wasn't young in this.
She's about 30, 35, 40.
So, maybe. Okay, she might have been that age, but it showed her from
She
a
looked
teenager.
35, 40 at 20.
It showed her as a teenager, a young woman coming into her own, and then being suppressed and having to suppress who she was because of who she was, and then the life that she lived in that repressed state, not having the passion, not having the freedom, and then her maturing and coming into her own self. She went through some things to get there. She went through some mental health challenges.
Sounds like her real life.
To get to where she was, to find herself. And once she found herself and her voice, she was able to stand on that, and she was able to love. She fixed her broken pieces, the broken trust and the broken pieces, and she was able to come and become her best self. So it was the story is how he helped support her to become that.
Okay, so Dave, you tell everybody where they can reach you at, but you have to give one
favorite song, love song.
Go for it.
Oh, love song.
Come on, Dave. I know you got a whole trunk full of them.
Yeah, I do. Well, I'm going to go with the one right off top, Many Represent Loving You.
Okay. All right.
Tell them where they can reach you.
You can reach me at FMAM, 4 Men About Men, on Facebook, and you can reach me at DROME7, DROME7 at yahoo.com.
Awesome. Calvin?
Heather, it's on you.
Oh, you want me to go? Oh. Mine is Love Is Just a Touch Away, Freddie Jackson. And you can reach me at yourinspired with a D, journey.com. yourinspiredjourney.com, and you can reach me by phone at 313-759-7855.
You can reach me at calvintman.com. Come bring me your softness. Comfort me through all this madness. Woman, don't you know it's you? I'm born again. That's one of them ones for me. When I hear that one, that's one of them ones for me. I had the privilege of getting to sing it, but that was one of them ones that put me in a very romantic mindset. Right? So for those of you out there understand that romance take work, relationships take work, family takes work, life takes work, people take work, understanding take work. Like, these are the things that it take work. It's not easy. And so you need to understand that you have to put on your big boys, and sometimes you're going to be wrong, sometimes you might be right, but more importantly, you got to come to an understanding, especially when it comes to romance and all these other things. This was a perfect show. This was on time. I didn't know where this was going to take us, but it took us there. And it's very, very important that we understand that, because we're doing too much outside of love, and it's not yielding the results in our children, and it's not yielding the results in the people. And so until next week, we'll have a special guest, Devin Hockey, who will be talking about child support next week. Go show some love to somebody that's close to you. Take the time to hold the hand of your spouse. You know, we were forced to hold hands yesterday at church. She said, take her hand. I felt bullied for a second.
She went gangster on you.
She was like, oh yeah, take her hand. Like, she was leaning in, like, you know, like shrugging her shoulders, right? So we took hands, but do it, right? It's just important. Every day is not the same day. No 2 days the same. As my man, me and Tone always say at the barbershop, ain't no 2 days the same. So you got to make sure that you enjoy life at its fullest. And romance is a great way to improve your relationship. So give it up. Peace.